Hi everyone, my name is Cash Cassidy. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Kentucky Society of CPAs. I have with me this morning Russ Woodward with Capital Link Consultants. They are our partners up in Frankfort. Wouldn't be able to be anywhere near as effective without them. They help us with our strategy and making sure that we direct our efforts in the right way. So thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. On March 28th, we finished up our short session in the legislature. Short session being a 30 days of actual legislating. It's more of a time where they clean up on those odd years, everything that happened from the previous year, stuff that was addressed during the interim. It is a non-budget session, so they don't really do a whole lot of revenue bills, but they certainly can if they absolutely have to. But that doesn't mean that KYCPA didn't have a lot of opportunity to weigh in on some tax-related bills during this session. I'll talk about a few of those right now. Primarily, House Bill 1, which lowered the personal tax rate from 4% down to 3.5%. And they also added some language into House Bill 775 that allowed for smaller incremental reductions in that tax rate as long as the general fund as well as the budget reserve trust fund are properly funded. KYCPA also helped to push through two bills that were brought forward by our own Board of Accountancy, HB 261 and HB 262. 261 had to do with the use of your CPA designation after retiring, as long as you do get a CPE waiver tailored towards retirement, allowing you to continue to do CPA activities in an uncompensated way as long as you were working on, say, a government board or doing pro bono tax return filings. HB 262 had to do with the naming rights of some of our smaller firms. Before, as it stood, if you were to have, say, two owners or partners of a firm and one was to retire or pass away, you would have a very limited amount of time before you had to change the name of your firm down to just the surviving member's name, which was a bit of a hurdle for people as they were trying to make sure that they had all their marketing set up, that they had their business cards set up, their signatures on their emails. It was just made it very difficult for people to grow in that environment. So we wanted to make that change, allowing you to keep the original name as long as you did maintain at least one CPA owner. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about some of the things that we end up playing defense against. I know that we had House Bill 103 and House Bill 133. 103 had to do with the narrowing of the classifications of offenses that actually allow you to be disqualified from getting your licensure. And then 133 had to do with universal licensure.
Well, in any legislative session, you often hear about the bills that have passed. But in the same regard, having a bill or being able to prevent a bill's passage is often just as important. And while these bills are some considered good bills, from a policy perspective, from the society's view, some of them need a little bit more work. So working with those sponsors and working with the General Assembly to just say, hey, let's pause on this just for a bit and review it and see if we can come up with some language that we would all agree on, oftentimes leads to a better piece of legislation that we can pass at a later date. So in a short session when we don't have a lot of time, being able to stop any bill that we believe to be bad policy is just as important as passing legislation like House Bill 1 or the Board of Accountancy bills, which I'm very proud of that we were able to help with those passage. Individuals that are a member of society, they worked very hard to get where they are today. So we protect those licenses. And the education and the effort that's gone into achieving the ability to be a CPA, because it's not easy to do.
No, it's not. So in addition to that, I just want to touch on some of the things that, now that we've kind of talked about a quick wrap up of the session itself, kind of what we can expect to at least be looking at during the interim as we approach the next session. Some of the things that were brought up over the last session, we actually like the look of, but again, we just want to make sure that we come from a specific standpoint of being relevant specifically to CPAs. One in particular is the Kentucky Tax Tribunal. This is something that would essentially replace the Kentucky Tax Court of Appeals. And it's actually been implemented across the country in a number of other states and very well. The issue that we had with it is that it's got a 3-person panel requiring all attorneys that have a tax background. which on its face sounds great, but if we can, we would love to try to work with the various bodies and stakeholders on that bill to see if we can actually reserve a seat for a specified CPA.
Absolutely. There are very few, well, a lot of people operate in the CPA world. There are very few at that level that truly understand it. So to have a CPA on that tribunal is really important to us because we do need a voice from the society that can articulate exactly what it means when the various issues come up that are important to us going forward.
Absolutely. Another issue that we hope to have some of the language cleaned up, I think is a nice way to put it, the modernization of local tax collection. We actually joined a coalition this session with the Small Business Caucus, who had a bill, House Bill 253, put together, which I think was a great start. And I think that it made a large enough splash during the session to let people know that this is an issue that is coming down the way, and that they should probably come to the table to discuss it. And I look forward to doing so. We've already had an opportunity to speak with CALO, the League of Cities and Counties, and they are all people that we want to be working together with to make sure that this language is something that everybody can get on board with, agree with, and be happy with at the end of the day.
Absolutely. One of the issues that we currently face and that our members face and our small business folks face is that the amount of paperwork and red tape that goes into these filings is just overly burdensome. So our goal is to work with the cities to make sure that they receive the money that they're due, but at the same time allow us and our members the ability to cut down on the amount of paperwork that they're having to do with multiple jurisdictions. So look forward to those conversations over the interim, and hopefully we can come up with a bill that will accomplish all of our goals and make business and business-friendly initiatives to the forefront going into the 2026 session.
And I'd say probably one of the last issues that we might want to take a look at during the interim became a very hot button issue as we were kind of coming towards the end of session, which was the disaster tax relief extension. Obviously we've had a number of these pop up since the tornadoes in Western Kentucky. So I think there's 3 that have come if you include COVID as well. And I think it was this time in particular where the language that currently exists in statute really butted heads with the declarations that were coming down from the federal level. So a lot of the languaging that we were seeing, or the language that we were saying was, at best, a little bit convoluted and at times very contradictory.
Well, it was very well intended, and Kentucky has been unfortunately just inundated with natural weather disasters over the last several years. And these declarations that President Trump issued during the weather events over the past winter, they covered the entire state. We know that there are parts of the state that fortunately were not impacted by this. However, the declaration did cover them. So it was a bit of a convoluted issue moving forward. And the General Assembly actually, I think they did their best efforts to try to rectify the situation. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get there in the short 30-day session.
Absolutely. We'll try to probably explore whatever avenues are available just to see if there's any way to actually clean up that language, whether it be in the statutes themselves, or to just maybe make it to where the issue becomes more of a top-level issue with some more awareness to those legislators.
And that's a conversation with the General Assembly and the executive branch, the Department of Revenue, as well as your effective business owners and CPAs.
Absolutely. As we continue through this interim period between legislative sessions, we're actually teeing up for what's going to be a long session or an actual budget session. They will start doing their interim committees where they'll start reviewing that budget. And I know that that's going to be a really hot button issue with everything going on at the federal level because the administration is looking to make as many cuts as they can to cut down on fraud or just waste in general. So what kind of things can we expect?
The Appropriations and Revenue Committee will begin to hear from the various entities throughout the state that will be asking for appropriation or a change in tax policy. This will be an interesting interim because we still, to Cash's point, don't really know what the federal government's going to do quite yet. And we will have to be a little flexible on how we adapt to those initiatives that come down from the federal government. With regards to our future budgets, Medicaid will be an issue that we'll face. Possibly tax reform at the IRS will be an issue that we'll face. So while we're working during the interim, we'll also have to keep a very, very eyes wide open approach to what the federal government's doing, because that will absolutely affect our 2026 legislative session.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting time for sure. Certainly looking forward to this next session and being able to collaborate with all the various stakeholders and people that are going to be involved in these decisions over the course of the coming months as we prepare for it. And of course, we will be relying heavily on our partnership to make sure that we can be as effective as possible.
Well, we really appreciate the opportunity at Capital Link, and we look forward to another good interim and another good 2026 session. And again, we're most powerful when our membership is the most active. So if you are familiar with your legislators, please reach out to them, let them know that you can be a resource. And if you're not, reach out to Cash. He can tell you who to get in touch with.
We have a lot of resources available to our members. There's the member meetup. You can also go to our kycpa.org. And then you can also join as a key contact in case you are happening to be in one of the areas where we really need outreach to be a little bit more targeted. This is a wonderful chance for you to stay informed, and then it also helps us to make sure that we get information out to you so that you can help us in our advocacy efforts. I think going into the tail end of this, I just want to mention that one of the most important things that we as an association and our members can do is make whatever contributions you can to our political action committee. You can find more information about it on kycpa.org. But by funding that and funding it well, we have ourselves with as much dry powder as is possible to really be as effective as we can be in Frankfort during the legislative session and leading up to it, by directing those funds in the best possible way to help legislators understand that these are issues that we really care about, and to help try to make sure that the right people are in the right seats.
Well said.